We have Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We were waiting for quorum and clearing some stuff up. I'd like to welcome everybody to our August 13th, 2026 APCD Governing Board meeting. Madam Clerk, do you mind calling the roll?
Thank you, Chairperson Garcia. Before I call the roll, I'd like to note for the record that members Gloria, Lawson-Remer, and Cabal have notified us that they will be absent from today's proceedings. I would also like to note for the record that member Gomez is joining us as permitted by the Brown Act under just cause due to physical disability. Member Gomez, is there anyone present in the room with you that is 18 years old or older? You're on mute. I'm sorry.
Yes, my spouse is here.
Okay, thank you. All remaining board members are participating in person. With that, Member Bush.
Here.
Member Campbell. Here. Member Duncan. Member Fitzgerald.
Present.
Member Gomez.
Here.
Member Stigler Granados.
Here.
Vice Chair Aguirre.
Here.
Chairperson Garcia.
Here.
Thank you.
We will now move on to item B, non-agenda public comment. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chairperson Garcia. I would note for the record that we have received no request to speak under non-agenda public communication.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to approval of statement of proceedings minutes for the June 11th regular meeting.
We have one member of the public that wants to address the board under non-agenda public communication.
Perfect, we'll go back.
This time I call Truth. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hey, it's Truth. Thank you for not forgetting me. I'm here to relay the concerns of Imperial Beach residents. I will partly be addressing APCD's junk air purifiers and delivery system, but not specifically the lawsuit. One resident said, APCD is a useless agency just like Sandag. Totally agree with that assessment. Third-party money shuffling and taxing any way it can. Another resident says they applied for 3 new air purifiers, but APCD said no, because they got one during the first round. So they instead applied for 2 filters. Well, APCD apparently no longer has those filters. APCD is putting out flyers that say one thing, but the agency is telling residents another thing. This resident said that the product was never qualified for sale in California. Filters cannot be obtained for the systems, and the air purifiers will be obsolete soon, so what a waste of tax dollars. I was also told to ask about the Rouge vendors. Another fraud potential, any elected official that gains anything from a taxpayer-funded project needs to put that on their FPPC forms, as in things like air purifiers are gifts. I hope any elected official who really lives in ID that got a purifier reported it. Otherwise, I'm going to ensure that you get in trouble. Better scramble. And anyone that voted for a received gift should have abstained from the vote. Did APCD ensure that happened? I also tried to help another friend sign up to get a purifier, and the website said there was a wait list. Well, that's interesting because if APCD just got $4 million from the county after an approval to finish purchasing the rest, well, then where are the rest of the purifiers and filters? And I, of course, must point out that Ann, Manny, and Prather were seen outside the county building promoting these little baby purifiers like they're gold. Well, Prather was the one who capitalized off the lie of COVID and is now capitalizing with Manny off the sewage crisis grift. Because didn't Prather work with that other serial liar, Anthony Fauci? Oh, Manny, quick, plead the 5th. And let's not forget Todd punishing Sandagans by withholding restrooms during the summer, rather than withholding his personal security in SUV. I can only imagine the air pollution at places like Mission Bay. And I say imagine because I would never go there. Say what you will about the water, but at least I'd be as clean and open restrooms. Lastly, I want to remind this board of the lies and stupidity spewed at the April 9th meeting.
We could truly purify the air and protect people from who knows what else. These air purifiers seem to be very good for the description in detail of what they do scientifically. I think they're very good.
I can't think of another example in my career in public service where something was never done before, is now being done, and has been done in a way that I can be very proud of.
We need to make decisions based on science. I know I do live there.
I know I do live there.
You ain't cleaning nothing, especially not your lies. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. We'll move. Oops. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item C, approval of statement of proceedings minutes for the June 11th, 2026 regular meeting. Madam Clerk, do you mind providing the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. I note for the record that we've received no request to speak on this item.
Are there any comments on the minutes from our last meeting from my colleagues? No comments. I'll move.
Second.
Yes. We have a motion by member Aguirre, or by Vice Chair Aguirre, seconded by member Bush. We will take a roll call vote. Member Bush,
Yes.
member Campbell,
Yes.
member Duncan, member Fitzgerald,
Yes.
member Gomez,
Yes.
member Stigler Granados.
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre,
Yes.
Chair Burke Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. With members Duncan, Gloria, Lawson, Reamer, and Cobalt absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to agenda item D1, the appointment of alternate public members to the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. I would note for the record that requests to speak are no longer accepted for this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of each category of candidate interviews.
Before I proceed, are there any staff comments for this agenda item?
No comments on this specific.
So I'd like to note the following for the record. Today we have applicants to consider for the alternate physician public health professional, alternate for environmental justice, and alternate for scientific technical member positions. The applicants will have 2 minutes to provide us an introductory statement, followed by any questions this board may have. After the interviews and any questions and answers, public comment will be received. At the conclusion of any public comment, the board will consider nominations and make appointments. Before we proceed, do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments about that? So could we start with our alternate physician public health professional member? That would be Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. We have one applicant interviewing for the alternate physician public member professional position. I would ask Paul Ferguson to please address the board at this time. You will have 2 minutes to provide your statement, and you will need to self-regulate your time. Paul will be joining us virtually, so you can go ahead and turn on your video, and you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, I'm having difficulty with, I called in, and let's see if I can. So anyway, I can't see anything, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Paul Ferguson, I'm a licensed respiratory therapist. I did pulmonary research for 34 years at UCSD. I was also the safety officer for the School of Medicine for half of that time. At one time, I was a certified industrial hygienist. I handled a gamut of issues at the university within the School of Medicine, indoor air quality complaints. As far as I worked with Bill Houston, who was the occupational department head at UCSD. He handled all of the NASCO exposures, and I did testing for him, especially for epoxy spray painters, because they're sensitizers in the 2-part epoxy, which gets released into the atmosphere. And specifically for my interest in the South Bay, the Tijuana River flow. I've talked to or sent messages to Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla. Talked to Brian Jones, and of course he doesn't have direct input to the federal government, because that's essentially who needs to deal with this. But he did submit a joint resolution for the federal government to do something about the outflow from Tijuana. Personally, my family used to like to go down to the Silver Strand, and I used to swim down there. And when I was a child, I got very ill. It was one of the episodes of the severe outflow of the sewage from the Tijuana plant there. So I guess that's, and then also that we did studies at UCSD. One of them was we published study 2007 as with regard to the fires and the PD 2.5 particles that were released, and showing that the asthmatics in our on our asthma studies got particularly worse and needed more medication during that time. So, I am aware of the atmospheric impacts of air pollution. Also, I'm going to meet with Joel Anderson and talk about. I'm sorry.
We'll just need you to conclude your comments since your time is ended.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We'll need you to conclude your comments. Your time has ended.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. At this time, we'll open up the floor for questions from the board.
Not seeing any hands raised, I'll go ahead and start. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, for putting your name out there and turning in your application. I was wondering if you could provide me an example from your clinical experience that demonstrates how your background as a public health member will inform and enhance your role as a public health alternate on this board.
Okay. Well, as far as in one of our particular studies, I did vacuum samples for dust mites in patients that had diagnosed mite allergies and affect their asthma, and then we were using immunotherapy to try to decrease that. So I've done sampling, and then also the pulmonary function testing, recruiting subjects from the public for those studies.
Thank you. Along those lines, do you have experience taking this technical information and technical knowledge that you're doing in this research and getting that information in a way, being able to convey that information in a way that people of the public and other people in the governing board can understand the health impacts of what's going on with toxic air pollutants?
I think so, because like I said, I spent 30 years recruiting asthmatic and patients with COPD for our research studies. So, at the visits, I would discuss things with them as far as, when we did have fires, how to try to avoid exposure using a HEPA filter unit in their room while they're sleeping, or avoiding, situations that might exacerbate their disease.
Member Stigler Granados.
I'm sorry?
I'm addressing one of the other members. She wants to ask a question.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for your application. I just have a question. Just kind of getting some more background on your current experience. If you could walk us through how any of your current or active practices fit the area of specialty for this position, which is looking at the health effects of air pollution on vulnerable populations. And if you could just maybe describe any of the populations that you've worked with in the last few years that fit that description. Thank you.
Okay, again, it would be just with regard to environmental exposures in the research subjects that we had, with regard to, for example, going down to the South Bay, avoiding that area, which could exacerbate their asthma, or possibly if they have reactive airways and COPD in that situation, and then also environmental issues at home that may contribute to their symptoms. So beyond that, I can't think of anything specifically I can share.
Member Gomez.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, can you, maybe I missed it during your intro, but, and if so, I apologize, but I was also having some issues hearing you. Can you speak to why are you seeking to be an alternate to this board? Like what's the driver? And have you engaged with APCD before? Are you familiar with the agency?
Only indirectly, like when I work with biotechs in Sereno Valley with regard to diesel generators to make sure that they comply with the regulations. That's about the extent of it. And I just I thought I could contribute with my knowledge of how inhaled particles impact patients. In my research experience.
Okay. And then lastly, being this is an alternate, I'm just curious, if selected, how closely would you, and not require, but I'm just curious to see how you are hoping to engage if you get a chance to sit on the board, because the main person's not there. How would you be working with the lead, or like would you be checking in, or how do you see that working from your perspective?
Well, I'd just be reviewing because I'm on the news feed email list, so I get things from the board, and I would follow along, and then I would also look into and read more on what's going on in San Diego County with regard to air pollution, more than I do now. So, but that's the extent of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from my colleagues? Vice Chair Avita.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. I'm just curious, so I was reviewing your resume and I see that you have extensive experience with hazard assessments and clinical trials and, biotech risk assessment. And I know that you were part of 3 different organizations. But I'm more interested in, and this kind of goes to the question that Dr. Granados asked earlier regarding what type of applicable, or I guess you could say practical experience do you have, even if that experience has been in your capacity as a volunteer with a vulnerable population that may be impacted by air pollution or that may have, implications within the work and jurisdiction that this agency does? Could you speak to that if you haven't?
Well, I was the executive director for the Airway Research Center at UCSD in Hillcrest. I specifically recruited coordinators that were engaged with the African American community. So other than some of the centers that were predominantly Black colleges, we were the highest recruiting center for African Americans. And these are people that had COPD and asthma. So, in many aspects that the areas they live in, they're impacted more by air pollution than other communities. So that's basic. That's about as specific as I can get.
Thank you, I appreciate your response.
Any other questions from board members? No. Madam Clerk, do we proceed with public testimony, if any?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. We have one member of the public wishing to address the board on this item. I would call, or on this interview category, I would call for a truth. You have 3 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi there, Truth. I would say, first of all, since I was going to say Todd probably shouldn't vote since he's the one that created the bill for these seats, but good thing he's not here. I also found it interesting that the compensation is $200 because that's higher than what elected officials get paid to show up asleep and unconscious on their phones at Sandag. So, wow. I don't know what to say for APCD. And I'm going to get to the specifics, but I really want to address the process too. I'd like to know why applicants' states and cities are redacted, because don't we need to be sure that they actually live in California and somewhere in San Diego County or not? Because they can say it, but I, like, as a member of the public, private citizen, I can't actually confirm that one way or another. Now on Paul, thank you, I guess, but you already admitted that you have conflictions of totaling 3. The Big Pharma one and UCSD are huge red flags to me because there's way too much UCSD corruption and confliction going on as it is. Those state respiratory theories certainly harmed a lot of people in 2020. Ventilators comes to mind. And if vehicle emissions are your biggest concern, I'd actually recommend Sandag, not APCD, because I guess Sandag's goal is getting rid of vehicle emissions, where APCD is worried about the other emissions. I'm not even sure I know what APCD's goal is. You guys haven't made that clear. You don't have a contained focus.
We no longer have quorum, so we'll have to.
Oh, great. That concludes my comment on that one.
Thanks, Truth. You can go ahead and resume your comments.
There we go. I think I said what I needed to say for that candidate. Thank you.
Concludes public testimony on this interview category.
So we are now have closed the interviews for the alternate position, public health professional member position. We can commence with board discussion of the candidates. The 3 public members are not a part of this vote, so this is up to the elected officials. Any comments, motions? Member Campbell?
Yes, I don't know this individual, but his background sounds like it would be extremely helpful on the board. He's a respiratory therapist who has many years of clinical experience as well as understanding studies and even leading some research teams in various, pulmonary problems. So I think he is a good candidate. We only have one opening, right? Okay. I don't know if there's anyone on the board who knows him from any previous experience. Okay, so I will go ahead and move that we accept his membership on board. Thank you.
I'll second that. And I'd be open to listening to other comments or feedback. For this alternate position, I think it's important that we do fill it, and I understand that some of us as board members reached out and tried to get applicants and we didn't get any. So ideally, we do want multiple applicants, but I do appreciate Dr. Ferguson or Mr. Ferguson, excuse me, thank you, for putting the work and applying, and I do think his that experience with qualifications, and open to hear any other feedback from the board.
Public members are not allowed to comment at this portion, correct?
Yes, that would be my recommendation because the public members are not eligible to vote on that. So you're now in the voting and making motions.
Thank you for the clarification.
Quick question, but is there anything prohibiting them from speaking because they are board members, and I would like any of their expertise and to hear their thoughts or opinions? So I understand your recommendation, but what is that legally based on? Because I don't know if there's anything prohibiting them from speaking, and I do understand that they can't vote.
Yeah, I looked at the administrative code procedures, and it seemed like the sequence was, you know, you had the interview, the questions, which they participated in the questions, and then the public comments, and then now that part of the hearing is closed, and then now the board is considering the appointment and making motions. So what my recommendation is.
Vice Chair Aguirre?
Thank you. Well, I first want to start with thanking Mr. Ferguson for his interest in this position, for submitting the application, for sharing with us your experiencing and answering our questions. I really appreciate that. I also believe that this is a critical position, and I think you are a very well qualified candidate, Mr. Ferguson. But I'm actually leaning towards keeping the position open so that we could have a broader pool of candidates, just so that we can weigh our options and make a well-balanced decision from a larger pool of candidates. That is not to say or reflect my opinions on Mr. Ferguson. It's just this is a unique opportunity that we have before us, and we want to get it right. And it's highly unusual to just have one candidate apply, and I know we're all very busy and you know, have other commitments, but I would encourage us to perhaps wait and get a larger pool so that we can make a more informed decision.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second.
Sorry.
so we have a motion and a second, and then did you want to do a sub-motion? Vice Chair? Okay, we'll take the vote for the motion first.
Well, I
Did you
was
have a
just
question?
gonna comment that I'm in agreement. I do think we should get a bigger pool of applicants. So procedurally, if we need to withdraw the motion or amend it, but I'm willing to carry this over, I think, is what the action will be, right? Or-
You can either withdraw your second, or we can vote, and take a roll call vote.
May I ask a point of information? Is there any, thing in code or any information in regard to ethics in terms of his current professional job? Besides, really the specialist or a health and safety consultant, would that in any way get in the way of his position on the quality board?
So I think your question is, his position as a consultant right now, would that impact his ability to serve on the board?
Yeah, is there any ethical or ordinance concerns in regard to doing that of serving on the board?
I mean, people can serve on the board, but if there became a conflict of interest, like if, for example, you had a client that was appearing before the board, like, probably want to, evaluate whether to recuse himself or not appear for the vote. But it's the same as any other board member. Yeah, if there's a conflict of interest, and that would be addressed with that. I think were you also asking about the specific qualification for this position or?
Is that listed in?
It's also listed in the form, but just to refresh everyone's memory, one public member shall be a physician or public health professional actively practicing within the boundaries of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District. The member's specialty shall be in the health effects of air pollution on vulnerable populations.
Well, I don't know if his current job is currently involved with doing that, but he had 35 years experience prior. So I think he's had experience in that.
So, yeah, that's up to the board to determine, whether, based on the information, you would consider that he would be actively practicing in that.
Yeah, I don't know if being a health and safety consulting company or whether or not he's actually practicing respiratory therapy at this point. But he certainly has a lot of experience, certainly with the healthcare provider.
There is a motion and a second on the floor. Would you like to vote?
I will vote yes.
I'll do a roll call vote. Member Bush,
No.
Member Campbell,
Yeah.
Member Fitzgerald,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Aguirre,
No.
and I note for the record that Member Duncan is absent. That vote fails for lack of majority vote.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the consideration for the public health alternate position at a future meeting to allow us to receive a larger pool of candidates and reconsider the item then.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we'll take roll call vote. Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye, and with members Duncan, Gloria, Lofgren, and Koval absent.
Thank you. The next agenda item under D1 is the alternate environmental justice member position. Madam Clerk, could you please call the interviewees?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. We have two applicants, Nicholas Howard and Laura Wilkinson Sinton. You'll each have 2 minutes to address the board, and Nicholas, you can come to the podium. And you can use the timer on this, the self-regulated time.
Got it. Got it. Hello, good afternoon, APCD governing board members, staff, and all that. Go again. I am an attorney of product in the South Bay and an advocate for environmental justice for communities here in San Diego County. I have over 13 years of experience as a policy advocate professional, a legal professional, and a community organizer. Recently and relevant to this board, I served as an air quality policy advocate with the Environmental Health Coalition, leading campaigns against San Diego County most flagrant polluters. I was also a member of the AB 617 committee, community steering committee, in order and the port side, and helped inform sections of their CERT and help advance some of the implementation measures through those efforts. So, you know, in 2025, I stopped working with EHC as a policy advocate and transitioned to a role as an immigration attorney with a nonprofit, still in an environmental justice community, serving folks that live in impacted neighborhoods. But my advocacy in environmental justice has continued. So since 2024, I've served on the County of San Diego's Environmental Justice Working Group under the Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice, informing county plans like the Climate Action Plan, the Emergency Response Plan, and continuing to advocate and raise the issues of concern for community members in environmental justice neighborhoods. Honor to serve on this agency. I know how impactful and powerful this body is, and happy to answer any questions that you all may have about my experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna do questions, yes. Sorry for that, yes, we're gonna ask you individually questions after your statement. So I'd like to ask if any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Fowler? Member Gomez?
Yeah, and I should have said it earlier. This is a little bit awkward just in terms of we're electing our own alternates, but yet we're not able to vote or comment when the discussion is occurring. So I get the voting. I really do question the engagement of our comments and love to us give our opinions. And I say that because obviously now we're talking about the EJ alternate, and that's the position that I hold here as the rep for EJ. But needless to say, Mr. Bowe, maybe can you talk to us about what and obviously I think some of us know you because you have been in front of this board advocating, providing direction, comments, which is what I appreciate on any member that can add to the conversation. How can we improve and do better as this agency specifically for impacted communities as an EJ rep? If you are to be elected today, and you spoke about your background, but maybe shine a light a little bit in terms of what's your drive in wanting to advance environmental justice for our region. Now you're an immigrant attorney, and yet you're still involved in trying to address EJ. Why do you do that? What's that drive?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Georgette. You know, I think for me, being an advocate is about it's about impact on the people that I love most. a product of the South Bay, grew up, going to Nestor Elementary, you know, like, experience, all the impact of living in an environmental justice neighborhood. People that I love and care about live in these neighborhoods. And so I think my drive and interest is trying to improve the condition of the people that I love most in the neighborhoods that I care about most. Yeah. Also, I have a tendency to I get really uncomfortable when like injustice happening, and not in like a weird like savior kind of way, but like it just really irks me, and I feel like that there's an obligation and like a need to kind of speak out when I feel like there's something wrong. And I think that's something that I try to live by and commit my career to.
Thank you, appreciate that. And then lastly, and I think this is a question that I'm gonna ask for all positions, but it's more being that this is an alternate, and as I stated earlier, it's not required, but if selected, would you work at all closely with the person that you're representing? In this case, it would be me, or is the way that you see it as you're just doing it from your own lens? If allowed to sit on the board to make decisions.
You know, I think I heard the first part about how like working directly with you and how I hope to accomplish that. I missed the second part though.
Member Gomez, can you move your microphone closer to your mouth? I think that'll help with the communication. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm wearing a headset, so it's as close as it gets. Can you hear?
Yeah.
That's better.
That's
Yeah.
better.
It's the one higher up.
It's the one next to your right cheek. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like right there.
There we go. There you go.
It's like there. All right. No, I was just wondering, as I stated before, I don't think it's required. The alternate is not required to work closely with the lead representative on the board. But I'm just curious in terms of your approach, if selected, would you work closely with the person that is the lead, or would you just approach your engagement from your own lens?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Definitely, I think as an alternate, I think there's an obligation to hear out the primary board members' opinions and thoughts about certain votes. You know, I think also from like a personal position, I think I recognize I have a lot to learn, and so as you know, somebody that may be serving as a proxy, as like an alternate to you, you know, I think there's definitely perspectives and things that maybe I may fail to consider or may need to consider that I definitely would benefit to working with you closely on. And so, yes, to answer your question, there definitely be collaboration and conversation with the member, if it's allowed through Brown Act and all those other goodies.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
I'm going to have the same question for both candidates. If you provide me an example from your professional or community background that demonstrates your experience working directly with environmental justice communities, and explain how you'll use that experience with regards to our governing board if you step up.
Yeah. It's hard to think of one specific experience. You know, I think one of the more formative examples that I can come up with. Serving on the ABCD, or the AB 7 Community Steering Committee, you know, there's an opportunity to work with community members, with industry, with elected officials, and members of the military to advance some of these goals. And so I think the ability to do that, I think is going to serve me well in this role. Mind you, I am very hyper aware and committed to the role that I'm supposed to serve. So this is an environmental justice representative position. And so the interest of community members that live in environmental justice will be my primary consideration every single time.
Thank you. Any other questions? Member Stickler Granados.
Hi, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences with us. I'm just gonna also ask both candidates the same question. What do you see as the most pressing environmental justice issues right now facing San Diego County or in the near future? And also representing the voices from the environmental justice communities. How do you see yourself bringing their voices to the board with dealing with those issues? So that was actually, I'm sorry, that was kind of a two-part question. One is, what do you see as the most pressing issue? And two, how would you represent EJ voices on our board to address some of those issues impacting them?
Pressing issues when it comes to air quality, advocacy. You know, obviously, I mean, I feel like every time I tune into ABCD meetings, there's conversation about the DJ River Valley, obviously a huge environmental injustice example. However, you know, I think in addition to that, I think there's a huge opportunity to address pollution from the transportation sector and the logistics sector here in San Diego. Accident rates in some of our environmental justice communities are extremely high and continue to be extremely high. Finding ways to get the technologies into these neighborhoods and making sure that they're reaching folks from these neighborhoods and not large corporations. You know, I think it's a huge opportunity for this board to continue to champion and push forward. How do I progress EJ voices? You know, I think part of that is like continuing to stay engaged and connected to organizations and people that are impacted and representing these interests. And so my hope is to continue to work with and in collaboration with organizations like the Environmental Health Coalition, organizations like Climate Action Campaign, Sierra Club, to better understand the issues that are impacting folks in different parts of the county that I may not live or know people from. But again, continue to try to elevate that as the alternate member. That's the plan.
Vice Chair Davide.
Thank you so much for answering our questions and for your previous work. We appreciate it. My question was very similar to Dr. Granados, so I'll put a little spin on it. Can you think of a time, well, we talked extensively about environmental justice, and it's usually communities that are highly impacted by environmental stressors, and usually those are man-made, right? Pollution, like emissions you referred to, industrial and car and Susquehanna River. On many occasions, not all, but a lot of times, there is tension between industry and environmental justice, and that's just the nature of that work.
Yeah.
Can you think of a time where you had to make a difficult decision in favor of the community, environmental justice community that you have represented in the past and how we're able to successfully continue to represent those communities regardless of whether you want the item or not.
One last time with that part.
So, yeah, so can you give an example of a situation where you found yourself within that tension, right, of industry and environmental justice communities? And what did you do to elevate those voices? And if it was successful, how did you do that?
Yeah, so, examples that come to mind, or are examples through my work with the HC. I don't know how specific you want me to get, but there were several campaigns where there were proposals for projects that would have just extremely impacted neighborhoods in the Forsyth community, particularly National City and Barrio Logan. You know, I think my role as an advocate was one to kind of play a bridge between policy and making complicated policies understandable and accessible to community members, and then giving them the forums, pointing them to the forums and folks that can potentially make a decision to improve those conditions. And so was trained and taught in popular education and trying to encourage community members to be their own advocates. And so some of the things that we accomplished is like having harmful polluters decide to pull back on trucking plans that would have brought, you know, hundreds of trucks into our neighborhood, pushing back against biofuel diesel plants in the neighborhood that making people sick. And so, yeah, there's hope that answers.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. I really appreciate that example. Thank you.
I think we're done with questions for now. Madam Clerk, you want to call the next person up?
Thank you. Our next applicant is Laura Wilkinson-Sinton. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
I'm a little shorter than you. Thank you. My name is Laura Wilkinson-Sinton. I'm a community activist and nonprofit leader. I'm based in the Coronado Cave. My resume unfortunately did not attach. I do have it and would like to, with permission, submit it for the record, if I may. But I'll give you in a nutshell my background. Organizational leadership, nonprofit management, sustainability, leadership design and measurement, community and public outreach, thought leadership, media relations, marketing and communication, and strategic business and community development. In short, my professional experience includes substantial broadcast media, including here in San Diego, and Fortune 500 utility experience, which would be a unique perspective for this board, having represented a Fortune 500 utility that is now owned by Southern Company, the largest air polluter in the nation. Fun facts, I've also recorded an episode of Shark Tank in Another Life and written several op-eds for the UT on port governance, Voice of San Diego, on the Otay Mesa crossing and why we should have it full to help pay for the pollution. And also I've been a paid contributor to the New York Times. Recently, I have led StopTheSewage.org, 501c3. I founded this nonprofit advocacy and educational organization when I saw the pollution signs at my beach at Silver Strand State Beach and wound up in tears because my family and grandkids don't visit me anymore. I served as a member of Supervisor Mayor Aguirre, then former Imperial Beach Mayor Aguirre's South County Healthcare Task Force, which also came up with the original data because we couldn't get the county's attention by just anecdotal everybody's getting sick. We provided the data, thanks to scientists like Dr. Granado. And also I belong to the Transboundary Pollution Coalition of NGOs and currently the Tijuana River Coalition, which meets monthly with all of the stakeholders in the South Bay. I'm a sponsor and mentor of the award-winning Stop the Sewage Youth Club at Coronado High School. We teach advocacy, civic responsibility, and engagement with lawmakers for the next generation of environmental advocates. And really, it's to bring the policies to fruition, the policies that you execute here, the ones like SB 58 that Senator Padilla has brought forward. Yes. Oh, is it? Okay. I also have a bachelor's from SDSU and a master's from Arizona State in sustainability leadership. Thank you. Questions?
Do any of my colleagues want to start off the questions? Member Gomez? You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren, for expressing interest in being the alternate. Can you, I heard in your introduction and also in your application, you speak quite a bit about your engagement and a lot of it being Tijuana River and definitely a critical issue, not to minimize it, but I wanted to hear more on any experience on air quality that you've been involved in, if you can speak to that. It's also
Very happy to.
specifically related to impacts to environmental justice.
Okay. When I studied for my master's at Arizona State University, we focused specifically on transportation and air pollution issues in San Diego County, not just the South Bay, but East County too. Because wildfires are coming. We've seen the fires in Canada and the Pacific Northwest, and the particulates from fires are going to affect our East County residents as well. So having that knowledge and bringing that forward would be very helpful. In terms of the air pollution, I have worked very closely with the Tijuana River Coalition on the hydrogen sulfide issue, both when it came to, I was on the task force that Dr. Granados and Dr. Prather led, along with Supervisor Aguirre. So I was part of that discovered the air pollution and the particulates and aerosolized issues that we have with the sewage issue. So I was on the front line of that and have been helping educate and advocate to all of the families in the South Bay and the AB 617 communities near me about that. So they are aware of this, so they wear masks, so they get the air purifiers. For example, the Silver Strand Elementary School is in my neighborhood, 70% active duty military children. And we work with the Coronado School Board to get them air purifiers immediately because the effect on children of particulates and those aerosolized pathogens that we haven't even measured yet, we know are in the air. And it was because of that work with the Health Coalition that Dr. Granados and Dr. Prather worked upon. And I was humbled to be and honored to be a part of that as we went forward. Also studied a great deal of it, the base traffic in Coronado and the air pollution that comes from that, and also from fire treads. Believe it or not, those are aerosolized. When your tires wear out, they go somewhere, and it's oftentimes in our air. So those are two of the things. And then of course the East County, having lived in Lakeside, I know how wildfires can affect the air quality there. And I think this board addresses that or will address that in the near future. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then my last question is the same that I asked Nicholas, and that is, as I stated, it's not required, but I'm just curious if elected to be the alternate to my seat, to the NJ seat, how closely or would you work independently to engage on the board?
Well, to the point where it is allowed by the governance of this body, I will work very closely because I would be the alternate, not the main. So I would collaborate and work very closely with the person who is the appointed environmental justice board member here as the alternative to make sure that we collaborate and that all of the issues are covered that need to be covered. If that answers your question?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Member Fitzgerald? I'm wondering if we would be able to get
the resume that was brought along for us to look at.
Council?
I did take a look at this, and based on the admin code, the applications were to have, been submitted 10 days before the meeting, at least. So, I think I'm going to be providing at this time would not allow members of the public who may have wanted to review it. Although certainly she could refer to it. That would be my.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies for the attachment apparently didn't happen.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Baulu. Could you provide me or us an example from your professional or community background that demonstrates your experience working directly with environmental justice communities and how you would use that experience if you were to be on the board?
Well, I have several experiences for that, for the environmental justice community, not just Stop the Sewage, which is the nonprofit, which we actually flew 26 students to Sacramento twice this year to take their personal stories and fears and their talking points for SB 58 to get it passed, which is the hydrogen sulfide bill that this body is, I believe, in favor of, that would put hydrogen sulfide standards in air quality that Senator Steve Padilla has championed, and I understand this morning just third appropriation. So to have students advocating on behalf for environmental justice, and these students would say the same thing. They would say, we get a choice of whether we're going to go in the beach water or not. We do not have a choice of whether we're going to breathe this air. And many of those students are part of the AB 617 communities from Imperial Beach, from Nestor, and from Chula Vista, not just Coronado High School, because Coronado High School has many transferred students that come in. So it was a real diverse group of students that were very clear on that. And we do that as well as advocate at the California Coastal Commission. It teaches them physics at the same time, but it's their playground that's been closed. It's their air that's been polluted as well. And they're very conscious of that. So that is just a couple of examples of that when it comes to environmental justice. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Garcia.
Member Stickler Granados.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories with us. I'm gonna ask the exact same question I asked Mr. Pau. Is what do you see as, it's a two-part question. What do you see as the most pressing environmental justice air quality issues facing San Diego County today? And also, how would you continue to bring the voices of the community members in the communities impacted, environmental justice communities to our board?
I think critically the most important one, without a question, is the Tijuana River Valley air pollution that's happening. We can't control it. We have a binational situation here, and a sovereign nation. We're also building a new Otay Mesa crossing. That's going to bring a ton of trucks and a ton more maquiladoras. It's expanding and growing as onshore is coming. So this is a problem that's going to go on for the next 10 years, specifically affecting the air quality in San Diego County. I think that is by far the most important one. And I think there are many prongs to making sure that stays first and forefront. It doesn't hurt to have student advocates everywhere speaking, because youth voices really carry and they are going to be our future. I think I have a demonstrated record of writing in the paper, not hesitating to speak up in public meetings when it needs to be brought to someone's attention that this is really happening. And I'm sorry that that member Duncan isn't here, because he has worked on it, and not, as well. And we are working, even though Coronado is not an AB 617 community, we are affected like one, and we are adjacent to one. And I come from a religious tradition where not only do we welcome the stranger and we're our brother's keeper, but to those who much has been given, much is expected. And those of us in Coronado who are more fortunate need to speak up when it comes to that. It's not just affecting our beaches, it affects our air quality too. We are a port city, and we are affected by that too, by the Port of San Diego. And the electrification funding mandates that are happening with the port are all positive things that need to move forward. And we want to reinforce the good things that are happening in industry, and check the difficult ones that are happening in industry, because that's what a regulatory body does.
Vice Chair Vida.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Hinton, for being here and for all of your work. My question is the same. I would like to hear from you if you can share with us an example of when you have had to stand up for an environmental community in the context of a tense situation between the day and industry. You just were speaking about industry. Could you give an example? And how successful was that?
With different industry, it's interesting. One of my random ventures was I invented a product called Fresh Tape with 3M. And our manufacturing was in Ohio, in a small town in Ohio. And they were just getting into sustainability issues. And that was one of the force points that I had from the industry side, is to say, we want to manufacture this with you at this plant in Ohio, but you have to meet standards for us to make that happen. And when capital does that, people pay attention. Even a big company like 3M will make adjustments if you make the ask from a for-profit industry or public industry. I've also, when it comes to air pollution from the other side, for example, we wanted to declare a state of emergency in the city of Coronado, and many of the citizens wanted a state of emergency, and there was resistance from the then mayor and city council at the time. And the sewage kids put together a petition of 300 signatures and spoke at city council to pressure that body to make sure we have a state of emergency and look at the air quality and the air pathogens, as well as the sewage issue, which had been documented at that time. So I've seen the tension from both sides. There are compromises that usually need to be made. There are some compromises that you cannot make, and you have to keep pushing until the change is there.
Thank you.
Does that answer the question? Yes. Thank you. I also would like to acknowledge the staff for being so responsive during the application process, and acknowledge the other worthy applicants too. Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. We have 4 members of the public that wish to address the board on this item. We'll begin with the 3 that are here in the room. I'll call your names and then you can come up one after the other once you've concluded your comments. We'll have Charles Reilly, Jasmine Vargas, and Serena Pelta. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and you will be able to use the. I'm sorry, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You'll be able to use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charles Reilly, and I'm speaking on behalf of the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club in support of appointing an alternate for the environmental justice position. While Sierra Club thanks both Nicholas Powell and Laura Wilkinson for applying, as they are 2 incredible advocates for our region, Sierra Club San Diego is here in support of Nicholas Powell for this specific position as the environmental justice alternate. First, we want to thank Laura Wilkinson for applying to this position. We deeply appreciate her leadership and advocacy, particularly her important work around the Seaway River pollution crisis. Sierra Club is grateful for her commitment that she has demonstrated to communities suffering from this crisis, and her advocacy has helped to bring attention to this and the urgent need for action and accountability, and we thank her for her leadership. However, Sierra Club strongly supports Nicholas Powell for the environmental justice alternate position because of his years of advocacy for and with this air pollution control district and his sustained commitment to communities disproportionately burdened by air pollution and environmental injustices. Nicholas has been a consistent advocate for the Portside communities, including Barrio Logan, Logan Heights, Sherman Heights, and the West National City. He has worked to ensure that air quality policies address the cumulative pollution burdens these communities experience, and that community voices are reflected in decisions made by the air district. His advocacy for stronger air policies, meaningful implementation of the community emission reduction plans for the AB 617 communities, and greater accountability for pollution sources demonstrate exactly the kind of community-centered environmental justice leadership that this position requires. The Air District has an important responsibility to ensure that communities have a meaningful voice in its policies and priorities. Nicholas has been a great colleague, and he understands that responsibility and has demonstrated through years of work that he will bring the perspective, experience, and persistence necessary to advance clean air and environmental justice policy. We thank both candidates for applying. Laura has been an excellent advocate for the Seawater River Coalition and for this environmental crisis. But the Sierra Club respectfully urges the board to appoint Nicholas Powell for the alternate position for environmental justice. Thank you.
Good afternoon, esteemed board. My name is Jasmine Vargas. I am the Air Quality and Clean Ports Campaign Director for Environmental Health Coalition. And first I wanted to say that I think this alternate position should ultimately be someone that can both carry the work that has already been reflected by the current primary environmental justice representative that was elected by this board previously and has shown their dedication and work in communicating the importance of representing the environmental justice interests and issues that are faced by the portside communities, by the international border communities, and ultimately would be really important for this position to have the understanding of the importance of APCD's role in regulating the air pollution and the impact of that in our communities. As an advocate, environmental justice, climate justice, I feel like that's ultimately why we support Nicholas Powell for this position. I wanted to also share more personally that I was hired at EHC not so long ago as a replacement for Nicholas Powell. And the work that he had put into his role at EHC and all the work with the warehouse ISR, with the AB 617 SERP, with the community steering committee, and the role that he played in moving forward the maritime clean air strategy and everything is what I inherited. And if you can imagine, it was it's so incredibly helpful for me as someone that was just coming in, but also just inspiring and something that I felt like I could ultimately move forward because of all of the time and effort he put into not just creating the policies and moving those along, but creating the community around it and building the environmental justice network and ultimately highlighting the impact in a way that really spoke to the community's needs and elevated their own voices. The promotoras that I work with every day are always asking and thinking about Nicolas because they always had a really good relationship and was able to speak to the issues that they face every day, and he ultimately was really good at building those relationships. I thought it would be really important for you all to hear that. More than that though, I wanted to highlight Nicolas's commitment to not just environmental justice, but human rights, immigration rights, and just justice overall, and how that well-roundedness will make him the best candidate for this position. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Serena Pelka from Climate Action Campaign, where we're working towards an affordable, 100% clean and reliable energy future. As we vote today on alternates for the public member seat, we really are here today to share our full support for Nicholas Powell as the environmental justice alternate on the board. An absolutely critical part of public members' qualifications is their understanding of the needs of the community in connection with the air pollution problems in our region. And Mr. Powell has exemplified this through his unparalleled commitment to serve the community. Climate Action Campaign has had the privilege of working with Mr. Powell in his various roles, both past and present, and we have seen his exemplary leadership firsthand through his many years of experience working with the portside and border communities and those most impacted by pollution in our region. He continues to be an important voice, a dedicated advocate, and something that I think is really important is a thoughtful listener. And he does that for the community, focused on action that will improve quality of life for everyone. With that in mind, we know Nicholas will be a tremendous asset to the Air Pollution Control District Board we encourage your support for him as the alternate member. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Truth. 3 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hey, it's true. So I was actually just looking at FPPC forms to see who got what campaign donations, and yep, a lot of the familiar names: Sierra Club, Environmental Health Coalition, UCSD, etc. Let me get to the specifics. I'll circle back to that. So Nicholas Pohl, I'm going to say no to the well-funded Environmental Health Coalition. Just way too political. As you heard, you know, you have your buzz topics that some of you really, really like, but what the heck does that have to do with anything? Nothing. Her NGO is not something I put in the positive box. Maybe if someone applied while unaffiliated, didn't have any conflicts, I go, oh yeah, you have a long career of being involved. But when you are actively seeking stepping stones, that doesn't come across as a positive. And so I'll just ask, has anyone on this board received a campaign donation from the Environmental Health Coalition now or in the past? Because if so, you should, and I'm going to say must, legally abstain from the vote. Legal Aid on the resume is a purely political organization that is also infiltrating many jurisdictions with their bad ideas. I find being on the county EJ working group to also be a conflict of interest, since APCD continues to rely on county funding and county influence. And that definitely includes the county-lined PANA and OTI detention center work referenced in the resume. And I would just say for the record that being an immigration attorney sounds like too much on the plate when you just stack all of that together. But I don't know, I guess some people just have more than 24 hours in a day. Now, Laura Wilkinson, as I've said and you've all heard, she's a personal friend of Manuela Paloma. So that's a clear conflict of interest and ethically questionable. I was actually looking up to see how much she donated to the campaign. I'm not going to finish that research, but I'm sure it's a lot. Oh, don't forget the Prather connection. Of course. Actually, an IB resident asked me yesterday if Prather's going to make an appearance. I feel like we're pretty close to that. And I know some are desperate for Democrat friends and allies. And why do I say Democrat? Because that is the partisanship that I remember clearly hearing at an Imperial Beach Council meeting one night. I did not share the opinion that all Republicans think one way. That was from Laura. And I've read public records requests on Stop the Sewage, which were very interesting, a lot of infighting, even from Laura herself. But guess what? I asked IB friend, what do you think about Stop the Sewage? And they're like, who's that? As in, people in Imperial Beach, they recognize Stop the Stink, Stop the Poop, and Citizens for Coastal Conservancy. But Stop the Sewage doesn't even hit the radar. I don't know what to tell you, except that's a reflection of what has been done and what hasn't been done. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on this item.
Vice Chair Aguirre.
Well, before we proceed with our discussion, I'd like to ask for a point of clarification for our council. We haven't concluded the public hearing yet. If we don't do that, is it still possible to allow for the public health representatives to have a discussion before we enter the voting? I heard that was of interest, so for several.
So maybe you're contemplating like asking if they have any opinions
before we close the public hearing and enter the voting.
I think that would probably work as long as it's before you guys start making
actual like recommendations and reference. Thank you so much for that. Madam Chair, is that your discretion? Is that something that we could proceed with?
I have no problem with proceeding with statements or comments from public members.
If there are any, there may not be any.
Member Gomez, did you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, and can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Not really.
Faintly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Like literally have the mic and let me just
That's better.
give me
Yeah,
a second.
by your mouth was best.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That's even
Okay.
better.
Okay, I got rid of the earplugs. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of my thoughts in terms of, you know, how I see this. I do believe that, as I stated earlier during my question to one of the applicants, that Tijuana, the Tijuana sewage is definitely an extremely critical issue, and that hits a lot of different jurisdictions. APCD is one of them, um, but there's more to that. I do believe from an APCD lens, and I think this is of no surprise to anybody in the board, because I've stated in the board, is that we have other issues as well, aside from the Tijuana River sewage, to really grapple with. And because of that, I'm thinking about who I would feel more comfortable being my representative, my alternate. And I think is Nicolas, one that has been to this board when he was working with Environmental Health Coalition. But I also appreciate that even though he's no longer working at EHC, I appreciate his commitment to really advancing environmental justice, particularly through the lens of air quality. And that's really a testament to his continuing um, involvement in the various different committees, wanting to be an alternate here outside of his work. I do believe there's value to that, and if I were to be me voting, I would recommend voting for him because he brings experience. His approach to this agency has been very much of a critic, but also providing solutions to how we can address some of the issues that we're grappling with. So I would feel comfortable working with him. Nothing against Laura. I appreciate her commitment in advancing solutions to the Tijuana River Valley, the sewage. But I think there needs to be more, and I think Nicolas would bring that. Those are my observations. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no comments, Dr. Stigler, Donatos. Okay, now we can open up the board discussion of the candidates.
Madam Chair, I still have the floor.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yes, Vice Chair Aguirre, you may speak.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your comments, Member Gomez, and I also want to take the time to thank Environmental Health Coalition, Sierra Club, Climate Action Campaign, and the promotoras for coming here and expressing their support directly and indirectly of Nicolas. I really appreciate hearing your thoughts on that. And I want to say, I think that unlike the previous appointment, here we have a richness of options. So the opposite situation. And I want to thank both of the candidates for answering our questions and doing it very well and giving great examples of how they would, engage in their tenure as an alternate here. And I just really want to appreciate them because it's not easy to put yourself out there, and I just thank them. I do want to say that I think if I could, I would vote for both candidates. You guys are both well qualified, and I know that whoever ends up being voted in will do an excellent job. So again, I want to reiterate, we're very lucky to have such great candidates. I will say that for me, the edge is Laura, just because Nicolas, I know that you and I didn't have the opportunity to coincide. I have been working now more closely with Yasmin, but I certainly have had the opportunity to work with Laura, especially during a time, very dark time, when community was not being heard within the context of their pollution related to the Tijuana River sewage. And it was a very dire situation when those voices were being almost indirectly silenced. So Laura showed a lot of courage and clarity in her work to uplift the voices of not just the people who live in Cornell Cave, but also in Pearl Beach and Nestor. She mentioned one advocacy effort she did in Sacramento, but there were many more that we can point to, going all the way to the White House. So I will say I may be in the minority, and that's okay, because like I said, I'll be happy with either of the two candidates, but at this time, and for the reasons I just stated, I would like to make a motion to nominate for.
I'll second that one. Any other discussion? Member Bush?
Yes, I share the very similar sentiments, really, two outstanding candidates, and I'll go ahead and support, the vice chair's, motion. I want to be, direct about I think, what Laura brings is what I've known from her is through working with her directly, more closely than Nicolas on the Tijuana River sewage crisis. And I do hear Member Gomez and really appreciate those comments. And I feel that Laura, because Georgette really has as the EJ experience, the Barrio Logan National City, and that expertise and that experience. So I think Laura can bring some more of that air quality experience specific to the hydrogen sulfide, and the air emissions related to the Tijuana River. I think she brings that aspect. So what I struggle with a bit, Laura, and I told you this on the phone when we spoke, is that Coronado isn't an AB 617 community, and it is wealthier. However, I do know that Coronado does in areas suffer from diesel particulate matter pollution and the water quality issues, even though I don't know, I'm not aware that the hydrogen sulfide issues are as bad at Coronado as IB. But there's absolutely water quality issues, and there's an expertise there that I do appreciate. And I feel that Nicolas's experience is very similar to Georgette's. However, it also, he also has more lived experience in the 8617 community, so I appreciate that. And if there's a way, I'm trying to look at the qualifications. I'd still love Nicolas to be an alternate, so I don't know if there's if the qualifications would meet either the health or even the technical part of it. But I really think there's two outstanding candidates, but for these reasons, I do support Laura, and think that her experience is unique, it's different, it's something new, and it is, and I know that it is environmental justice oriented, because I worked with her personally. So I do support the vice chair's motion.
Member Fitzgerald? Thank you. And yes, thank you to both candidates, both very impressive backgrounds and experience. And so funny as you were going down the list, lived experience for Nicolas and all the things I agree with. And one thing that I really appreciate about Laura is that just a different perspective that she's going to be able to bring, that's going to add to everyone's, everyone here has a unique experience and something unique to bring. And I think with perspective, her experience, and then also just, I really appreciated how she was able to identify the current situations, seeing what was coming up, and just already making the plans for the future because of what she thinks or can project based on her experience that's going to happen. And the advocacy, again, the clarity, and I just think that all the work that you've done just really speaks that, you're going to be able to hit the ground running and work great with So thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please, call the vote?
Thank you. Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gary?
Yes.
Thank you. With members Duncan, Gloria, Lawson, Reamer, and Cobalt absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Okay, I am going to ask the board if we could just take a brief, less than 5 minute recess as we are about to lose quorum, just to take a quick water break. Thank you. Line?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I wanted to ensure that we kept quorum. So we will move on to the alternate scientific, technical member position. Madam Clerk, can you please call the interviewees for this position?
Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. We have two interviewees, Lucretia Holloway and Corey Zupo. You each will have 2 minutes to address the board. We'll begin with, Ms. Holloway, who is here in the room. And you'll be able to use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Oh, I can see that part. I got my phone. It says 59 minutes. You change the 2. Thank you so much for considering my application this afternoon to the distinguished board, staff, and to a familiar face. It's nice to see you guys in the room. I'm Lucretia Holloway. I used to work 2 blocks away from here, right down the street at NAFAC as an environmental engineer. And I managed the air program for both the Navy and the Marine Corps up and throughout the Southwest region. And after 34 years, I retired. And since my husband's from San Diego, we live out in La Mesa, and I knew we were staying here, I decided that, you know, I'm just gonna establish my environmental consulting firm right here, and I did that, E3. And my intent is to continue to contribute to an area that I have a lot of expertise and definitely more so, a lot of interest. And so that's why I applied to the position of alternate and scientific member for this board. I know you might be thinking that, you know, my experience with a regulated public agency, it does give me a lot of valuable insight into the requirements that are implemented in the field, but it definitely would not determine my decision. As we heard earlier, as a governing alternate board member, I would recluse myself if I needed to, but definitely disclose any potential conflict, and I would bring practical understanding, not an advocacy for a former employer. But like I mentioned, after 34 years, I'm still interested in environmental work after all this time. And I wanted to support in a broader community governance type role. Much of my career balanced environmental protection, regulatory requirements, public health, operational needs, and of course, as you know, the respective use of public funds. So I'm drawn to this board because it directly affects the health and quality of life in San Diego County residents where I live, care about the air I breathe, and I have a lot of experience. So thank you, Rita.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? I can, Vice Chair Aguirre.
You started to speak to the reasons why you're interested in this position. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I think that being in this position would allow me to continue to engage in an area of expertise that I have had in the past, and I plan on to continue to consult in the future. I am also very interested in being a part of the board and making sure that, you know, the public interest definitely perspective is taken into consideration, especially as it relates to air quality, because I think that's the one area that in environmental that affects the public the most visibly. I mean, I've done a lot of work in hazardous waste, solid waste. Yeah, we want our trash picked up. We don't want anything in our backyard, but air quality is something that impacts everybody. We hear it every morning on the weather report, right? Is it safe for people, you know, out there to breathe?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Could you address specific aspects of your scientific training and data analysis experience that you would be able to bring to our board?
Sure, I have a lot of examples, of course, throughout the air program with air permits and compliance. But one example in particular was I developed the risk management plan for a cogeneration facility that had aqueous ammonia.
you know, the regulated substance. And the first part of that and how I would bring that to the board is determining what's the appropriate framework. So I know that's the CalARP requirement, it's an accident relief prevention program, but knowing the right framework involves knowing is this particular, if there was an accident at this particular facility, is it a program 1, is it program 2 or program 3? So understanding that framework and then just stepping back and looking at all the existing data that's been received in the past. And so I reviewed all the previous plans, all the modeling that was used, and if that information was still, it's not valid modeling data, obviously in the air, but seeing if it was still useful and what could be improved. One of the things that I'm known for, and I've been known for throughout my career, is ability to speak in public and communicate. And what I wanted to do with this particular document, because you don't want to create a document and just have it on itself. It has to be communicated. And so we looked through the document to see how could it actually be more useful. And we added simple things like physical pictures and photographs of the aqueous ammonia tank, the placard. So it would be useful to the operators, the emergency responders, and even the personnel that were there. Schematics are good, they're required, and they're part of the document ultimately, but just having a picture was one of the things that I recommended. And then making sure that we had a training plan to communicate. In the event that there was potential release, how far would that go, and how we came up with that information through the modeling program. I'm not sure with the public. And I was in a hobby teacher, by the way, but same concept.
Thank you. And just to be transparent, you already answered the next part of my question, but so you don't have to answer anymore, but I want to ask it so the next person knows. The second part of my question, which you already answered, is would you be comfortable translating dense scientific information into clear information for the rest of the board members? But you just gave me an example of that, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Stigler Bernados.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming today and applying for this position. I think, well, I had some questions, but you all are getting to it before I am. So, I just kind of maybe just curiosity about, what has been any of your experience, if you have any, dealing with this sort of like our NAP, our National Air Quality Standards, any experience with just like, dealing with those or addressing like regulations around any of those, or the pollution that impacts some of those, like ozone PM 2.5, some of the bigger things that we help to regulate here with the board.
Yes, I did. In managing the air program for the Marine Corps in the Southwest, they all had to do their emissions inventory. So we're talking about PM 2.5, PM 10, NOx, all that sort of stuff. A couple of them were Title 5 as well. They were, we had to also take a look at some of the additional hazardous air pollutants.
Great, thank you. And then one more question, sort of, this is kind of about sort of like, as we know, science can sometimes be politically or economically controversial. We're talking about informing decisions around certain policies with the regulatory body, especially. I'm wondering if you can describe a time when you had to communicate some of those scientific findings that were unpopular, and how you maintain scientific integrity in that approach.
Yes, I can now. I was the lead RPM years ago at Marine Corps Air Station Tustin. We were doing, this is soil and this is groundwater, but there were VOCs. And we had to communicate the cleanup to the public through the Restoration Advisory Board. And to them, they didn't want anything in their soil because it was going to be redeveloped. So if they wanted to put a daycare center, they don't want a child, eating soil and potentially getting sick. And so what we did and what I led is we set out in kind of a phased approach where we were educating them exactly on what the issue was, what the VOC, what the level was, what exposure was. Because a lot of times when we're at these public forums and we're talking to people and we're talking to them about numbers, it doesn't necessarily translate to, well, what does that mean for me? And so to be able to explain it in a way where they can understand it, hours of exposure, you know, and what the impact could possibly be is, what we did. And we did that in a phased approach. We didn't hit them with all the information all at once. Yeah, Ben saying those. Yeah, so. That answer your question?
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, would you like to call the next applicant?
Our next applicant is Corey Zupo. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. And he is joining us virtually.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize, I am at the airport, but hi, my name is Corey Zupo and I'm interested in this position. I have about 20 years of experience in air permitting. I grew up in Riverside County, publicly educated throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. Moved to LA, lived there for about 15 years. I was very involved in the environmental activism community because we had a catastrophic sewage spill in El Segundo, Hyperion. So I created the Neighbors of Hyperion page. I was very involved with the hearing board and the air district, worked on legislation with Senator Ben Allen. Fast forward, ended up moving to San Diego. And since then, I've been on the hearing board for this air district. And so for me, my background, I have a lot of experience in air emissions and source testing, of course, in permitting, and how to make rule regulations SIP approved. Because if the regulation is not a part of the SIP and approved by the EPA, it's not enforceable. It's just language. So where I see my expertise is making it more enforceable. So it's not just talk to the community, it's actually something that could be actionable. That's kind of it from a very high level. I apologize. I know it's probably really hard to hear me, and let me know if you have any questions. And oh, sorry, I forgot one more thing. I'm also a parent of 2 kids and very involved in the public schools.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from my colleagues for this interviewee? Go ahead, Dr. Stickler from Meadows.
Yeah, because I should have asked a clarification question for council. I think if I'm not mistaken, there's an all concern on the hearing board. Did I read that correctly? Or is that a different candidate?
I would resign.
Oh, okay. That was my question, if there was gonna be a conflict.
Yeah, Lindy would resign. It would be incompatible.
Okay, great. And so I guess then that, we go back to my other question. I just need a clarification on that, is making sure there was no conflict. So you would be resigning from that position. So that's, I guess, okay. So then I'll ask the question, and you kind of already talked about this a little bit, but if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more, about, translating complex science into policy. I think this is along the lines of a question, that was already asked of the, previous applicant. Could you describe a time?
It's really hard to hear. Are you talking to the microphone? I apologize. I'm really struggling.
Is this better? I'm like really close to the microphone.
Okay.
Is that faded?
I could kind of hear.
Okay. Okay, my question was about, could you describe a time when you had to explain technical scientific information to non-scientists to support important decision-making?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. For me, I have a 7-year-old and 9-year-old, and that's what I basically do all day at home. So a lot of times what I try to do is, first for me, I need to understand it. I break it down and I write, like, if you can't explain it in less than a half page of notes, folks aren't going to understand it. So I try, like, what is the overall takeaway? Like, what is the purpose of this? What are the action items and what will be achieved? And I try to keep it as simple as possible and then wait for the questions. Because folks are smart these days. Anybody could download something and put it through AI and figure things out. So I don't want to like dumb down folks and think that they can't understand something. So for me, I try to keep it very high level, explain how this is going to impact you, and then wait for the questions and go from there.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the same question I asked last candidate. What specific example or aspects of your scientific training and data analysis experience make you the best qualified to serve in this technical position?
That's a great question. So a lot of times with air emissions, there's manufacturer guarantees, or the manufacturer, for example, will say this air filter will get it down to 99.9% particulate matter, or this SCR will knock down the NOx to 2.5 parts per million. It's great on paper and makes people very excited. The thing is, it's only as good as it's maintained or as good as it's installed. So for me, I have a ton of in-person experience working at power plants, working at the airport, working at refineries, testing the actual air emissions from the stack, doing source testing, and working at power plants. So for me, being an enforcer and compliance officer at those power plants and refineries is, I know a lot of it's great on paper once it gets installed, but once it starts operating and getting a lot of usage and getting gunk and getting the filters start to get clogged, it needs to be maintained. So for me, it's more practical experience where we could promise the world to the public and make it look really good on paper, but it needs to be implied in practical forces out in the field. And what I see a lot of times too is the constraints where you could have the fanciest system installed, but there's not enough training or awareness at the facility of how to maintain and operate. So I have a lot of experience too, making sure they have compliance plans, monitoring plans, QA, QC, quality assurance, quality control, and getting that baked in.
Thank you. Any of my colleagues have any other questions? Vice Chair Aguirre?
Thank you. I'll just ask the same question. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your specific interest in this position?
Yeah, of course. My main interest is I'm a mom. I have young kids. And so we had to literally leave our previous community because it smelled like H2S, the rotten egg smell, for years. It's still in litigation. And for me too, it constantly every morning smelled like diesel, jet A fuel. So I'm very aware of what it's like to live in a community where you can't even go outside. And we also got free air filters, and within, I don't know, like a week, they already weren't working because the air filter, it gets spent and then you have to replace it. So I know what it's like. And for me, it's very important for my children to have a cleaner future and not have the same health conditions and autoimmune diseases that my generation had. Like I said, I grew up in Riverside County, and it was back in the 80s. And so I'm old enough to remember the smog alerts where we had to have recess in the multi-purpose room, and we all had asthma. and now as an adult in my mid 40s, I have autoimmune disorders, which I'm assuming is from my childhood. I don't know, but so for me, that's where it mainly is. I'm a parent. I don't have any financial investments in San Diego. We don't own a home here. We rent. I don't work in any company here. I'm not a politician. So I don't really have anything to gain except for the health of my community.
Thank you. I appreciate that response.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, oh, sorry, Member Stickler Fernando.
Sorry, really quickly, I'm afraid we'll move into something and I won't be able to speak after that. So just quickly, I just had a question. I know we have two great candidates. I wondered, and this might be for council as well. Is there ever a potential opportunity for like a crossover if, say, Mr. Powell wanted to throw their hat in the ring for this position as well? Are we allowed to weigh that option?
You're asking if you would want to apply for this?
Or we could use his application from the one position that we applied for the EJ position in this role as well. Is that a possibility?
Oh, well, the applications are.
I guess it's pretty well.
Design, and so he did not check that box. I would say no, not at this time, but potentially in the future. Yeah, you could apply for it. You met the qualifications, of course, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other comments or questions before we move to public testimony? Yeah. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. We have one member of the public, Truth, who is joining us virtually. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi, it's Truth. So Lucretia Lou Holloway. I'm not big on consultants, but I appreciate the real life and technical experience in pollution reduction. That is very specific. And thanks for including a picture of yourself in your resume. I saw you. And I appreciate your clear statement against personal agendas or conflicts of interest, as well as responsible stewardship of the people's tax dollars. And I think the Navy relations are important for air quality in San Diego County specifically. Corey Zupo, thanks for calling in from an airport. And I appreciate all of the variety of board and committee experience. I am not, however, a fan of the AES experience due to their use of polluting technology such as solar panels, which can't be recycled, and battery energy fire facilities, which have caused toxic fires all over this county and probably country. That's a confliction. I do, however, appreciate that you seem to have worked hard to move up in the world. Very impressive, and you gave very clear answers. Now, what else that the board needs to consider in their picks, your picks? Personality and character. Make sure you pick somebody who can work well with others, not just somebody you agree with. Has that happened so far? Do I have any faith in this board? Especially when you start a meeting 10 minutes late, full of screeds. I don't know if screeds is a word, but screed. Has anyone heard that word before? Just looked it up. It's amazing. Look it up. But, you know, feel free to prove me wrong, especially on audio, punctuality, and quorum. And for the record, I found $4,100 in campaign donations from Laura to Manuela's 2028 campaign so far. So doesn't take much to buy seats at politically creepy, gross APCD. Thank you.
That concludes public testimony on this section.
Okay, we're now open for board discussion on these candidates. Member Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate both applicants and what they shared on their background. And I'm going to say I have to agree with the statement that Truth said, and it is about applicant Holloway, that she brings real life experience and technical experience. And also one thing that, you know, just going down the list of things that she has accomplished and what she's done leading to where she's at now, but also wanting to give back to her community. I was impressed with how she handled the situation within the Mojave Air District. And also one thing, especially in this role, that you have to be able to communicate to the public. And, you know, it's a lot of technical information. And when you said, you know, that you're looking at it, they're asking themselves, you know, what does it mean for me? And you're able to explain that, and that's how we educate. And we get the public engaged, and they become a part of the solution to the problem. So I just think that you bring a host of experience, and I think you would be a great addition. So I would motion for Holiday.
I'll second that.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre?
Yes.
Thank you. With members Duncan, Gloria, and Lawson Weimer, and Cabal absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I would like to thank everybody who applied for these alternate positions. I know that it was a lot of work answering questions from us, and I really appreciate all your dedication and hope that you apply for positions in the future. That said, we are going to have a little shift in our agenda. We have a hard stop of a little before 5 p.m. in order to ensure quorum. So we will need to move to agenda item D6, our closed session, because that is something that we have to do at today's meeting. Oh, sorry, I apologize. We're moving. I forgot about the hearing board. Sorry, we're going to move to D2 first, appointment of members to the Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board. And then after that, we will move to D6.
Thank you, Chair Rebecca Garcia. I would note for the record that we received no request to speak.
Is there any staff comments on the D2? Okay.
Okay, we do have Truth, who is requested to speak on this item. You'll have 3 minutes. You can.
Well, that was
for the public comment.
Right, but don't I hear from him first?
Sure, go ahead and stay on the line, and then after we have the introductory statement from Mr. Ross, then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Just to note for the record, today we are considering an applicant for the hearing board primary public member position. The applicant will have 2 minutes to provide an introductory statement, followed by any board questions. And then after the interviews, we will allow public comment. And at the conclusion of the public comment, the board will consider any nominations and appointments.
At this time, we'll call Sterling Ross. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for allowing me to speak and to seek movement from alternate up to primary member. I serve as the alternate public member on the hearing board. I was put in that position or allowed to serve in that position back in 2024. And the reason it wasn't primary was that the way that it was offered was that it was just as an alternate. That's also when Corey was appointed. Want to say, feel bad for her being at the airport because she is an outstanding candidate for the governing board. Corey and Steve and I on the hearing board, we are all former source testers in a way, so we understand emission analysis, we understand emissions reporting, and we understand the causation of all of that. For the hearing board, the way that this applies is it's often cases that just don't fit into regular regulations, and therefore some sort of provision needs to be sought. This is where my expertise comes. I am the only hearing board member to have ever worked both for the Air Pollution Control District and for the regulated industry, and I have appeared before both, as both. I'm a former chemist with the Air Pollution Control District. I created 4 of the programs that are still being utilized today. I was there when Paula and Heidi were hired, actually. And I think that we still work well together. Certainly enjoy being around each other. Other than that, I don't have much more than I appreciate being able to do this. It was slated for last summer, but I understand that it got pushed to this one.
Yeah.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Ross?
I have a point of information question.
Sure, Mr. Campbell.
I noticed that Mr. Ross is already on the hearing board, a member of the hearing board, that his appointment doesn't end until June 12th, 2027. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Flores, is he an alternate?
Yes.
Currently, and he's taking the primary spot, correct?
Yes. Oh, thanks for that. Thank you so much.
So also a point of order, just for clarification, how long has that public member spot been open? That he's been serving alternate, as an alternate as?
Well over a year is my understanding. It was originally scheduled before this board last summer, but it got pushed due to probably a long meeting like this one. So he's been serving as the alternate in the meantime, but has not been moving the primary seat.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ross from my colleague? I don't have a question for you, Mr. Ross, but I did have a quick comment. I want to thank you for stepping up, and though you've been an alternate, filling in it as the public member, and for your patience that it's taken us a year to do this vote. So I just did want to let you know that I am aware of that, and thank you for your patience. Madam
no
Clerk,
problem. My pleasure.
Madam Clerk, is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have one member of the public, Truth. You have 3 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by saying your name for the record.
Hi there. So, Sterling Ross, can't say I'm a fan of SDG&E. Working for them itself feels like a confliction. Although I appreciate the experience of working with APCD on regulatory compliance, if such a thing can be appreciated. And hey, who else is applying? And who else is speaking to this? Nobody gets any alternatives. But did I just hear that it took a year to get to this application? What the heck is going on at APCD? I honestly think that things are becoming worse than Sandag used to be, circa 2023, 2024. Oh man, I don't know what's going on, but this place needs a cleanup. I will say, by looking at the application, I did get to learn about natural gas projects the state of California does support. So that is interesting news to me. Apparently natural gas is wonderful. And I learned even more while listening and watching Georgette stuff her gut. Thank you for that.
That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we're open for any discussion about the candidate from the board. Or you can make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that he be made the public member of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Member Gomez? Yeah, you can. Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre?
Yes.
Chair Burkett Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. With members Duncan, Gloria, Lawson, Reamer, and Cabal absent, that motion passes with those members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. And then, as I tried to skip forward earlier, I apologize. We will be moving into our closed section. Oh,
Yes.
oh, sorry. Sorry, Madam Clerk, we would be moving to our closed session, item D6. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. We have one member of the public that wishes to address the item. Ruth, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi there. Is this item 6, clerk?
This is closed session.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Medify Air versus County, ORMC, and APCD. I'm definitely investigating this. I can confirm that the county claims no communications on anything, which is no doubt yet another lie from them. And speaking of lies, you guys heard the clip I played earlier from the April 9th meeting, full of lies and stupidity. We heard follow the science from Clampdown Campbell. Todd said this is the best project he's ever seen. Maybe by the city of San Diego standards, it absolutely is, because of course they ruin everything they touch. Manny said APCD is gonna purify everything. And so far you guys have purified nothing at all, and you got caught in the process. Manny was so sure she'd be getting her way of 4 purifiers per house, and I know that's still in the works, but the whole board wasn't on board, maybe because somebody or some saw through the scam. And now with this lawsuit, how will you cover your poop shoot on that one? There is no pleading the fifth. That's why there's a lawsuit, and dear old Nora Vargas, another criminal, Can we drag her right back from Chula Vista to testify in front of the public for why and how $26.8 million was blown on something the county knew was inadequate, noisy, and inefficient and ineffective? Because the Times of San Diego, you read it, I'm sure you all read it, that despite the fact that these couldn't meet the requirements, the county went on ahead with the contract. It's not a mistake. Imperial Beach residents brought up those facts that these junk air purifiers were not California Air Resources Board compliant on day one, and both the county and you guys at APCD ignored them. The product was never qualified for sale in California, as evidenced by its original Amazon listing. And I have photo evidence I can include in the public record. I will do that next time. Residents say the listing was suddenly changed after they brought up the issue to APCD and CARB, and that CARB gave the green light anyway. See, this goes very high up the chain, and you cannot fool the Imperial Beach residents. I have heard so many stories from the very beginning, and everything they have said has been accurate. But no, that's not good enough, right? We got to continue the grift of $4 million worth of these same junk air purifiers. If they're not the same, why don't you be very transparent and say that they are not? No, because then you'd be admitting there was a problem, right? And you can't legally do that. Here's a question. What is the inventory of the first round of those purifiers and filters? What's left on the contract? And better question, cui bono with these backroom deals? So I'm going to continue to investigate this, because this is not where the sewage crisis grift ends. It's also in the county's water testing method that they changed a few years back. The lies are an epidemic of their own, and I can tell you Imperial Beach is beyond tired of it. They are tired of people who pretend to speak for them, and they absolutely do not. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We are going to recess into a closed session.
Marvin, do I stay on here?
Thank you, everyone. We are done with our closed session. Council, are there any reportable matters?
Yes, I'd like to report that, the board met in closed session and, granted authority to, hire outside counsel in this, matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to go backwards on our agenda. The next agenda item we will be discussing is item D5, accept and appropriate San Diego Unified Port District funds to support clean air projects. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. Please note for the record that requests to speak are no longer accepted for this item, and all public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Mr. Watt?
Thank you. I have a very brief presentation that we can walk through on this item. So just want to give a quick overview of today's request to accept and appropriate funding from the San Diego Unified Port District to support various clean air projects. Next slide, please. By way of background, the memorandum of understanding between SDAPCD and the Port District includes a commitment to create additional opportunities to maximize air quality benefits from the Port's Maritime Industrial Impact Fund, or MIF. The MIF is used to fund projects that help mitigate off-tidelands impacts from the Port's maritime terminals and maritime activities. The Port District recently adopted their fiscal year 26-27 budget, which allocated over $1 million for projects to support clean air. This includes a total of $980,000 from the MIF for air purifiers and electric vehicle projects in the portside community, along with a contribution of $25,000 from the Port's Environment Fund towards the IDA program to provide additional air purifiers to households in the Tijuana River Valley. MIF requires an eligible public entity to administer project funding, so SDAPCD plans to serve in that capacity for these projects in support of the shared commitment. Please. The MIF funding allocated in the Port District's budget includes $140,000 for the purchase and distribution of air purifiers for households within the portside community. We estimate these funds can provide approximately 500 additional air purifiers for portside residents, which will support achievement of Action D3 in the Portside Community Emission Reduction Plan, or CERP, to provide purifiers for up to 1,000 residents. Nearly 600 purifiers were distributed to portside residents as part of the initial CARE program a few years ago. SDAPCD will coordinate with community stakeholders and the Portside Community Steering Committee on a plan for distributing these additional air purifiers. Next slide, please. An additional $340,000 in MIF funding will help support the purchase of air purifiers for public schools in the portside community. This funding will support Action F4 in the portside CERP to reduce public school exposure by helping with the purchase of air filtration equipment at public schools within the portside community. SDAPCD plans to include these funds as part of our next annual Clean Air for All project solicitation in spring 2027 to allow schools to identify and request the air filtration technologies that best fit their needs. Staff would then provide an update to the Portside Community Steering Committee on project funding recommendations. Next slide, please. There's also $500,000 in MIF funding for implementation of a neighborhood community electric shuttle project serving the portside community. These funds will support Action B2 in the portside CERP to reduce emissions from passenger vehicles by providing funding for shared mobility services within the portside community. SDAPCD would enter into a grant agreement with the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center to use these MIF funds to begin program development activities with the shuttle service provider, purchase 2 zero-emission vehicles, and install charging infrastructure at the museum's National City facility to support the shuttle service. This MIF investment will help to partially offset the loss of federal funding previously allocated to this project and help ensure that it can move forward. It also leverages an existing $2 million grant from SDAPCD's AB 617 incentive fund to install a solar array and charging infrastructure at the museum's Barrio Logan location that will support the shuttle service and provide that community's first public charging system. Next slide, please. In addition to the MIF contributions I just discussed, the Port budget also includes $25,000 from their Environment Fund to purchase residential air purifiers for households impacted by the ongoing cross-border wastewater crisis in Tijuana River Valley. SDAPCD would add these funds to the existing funding being used for implementation of the IDA program, and we anticipate being able to purchase approximately 125 additional purifiers as a result of the Port District contract. Next slide, please. So our requested actions today are to authorize the APCO to enter into agreements with the Port District to accept this funding for clean air projects, establish appropriations in the amount of $1,005,000 in the APC operations fund for this year's budget, and find that the proposed action is as appropriate. I'd like to do this presentation, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. If there are no questions, Madam Clerk, is there any public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. I would call for Jasmine Vargas. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You can begin by stating your name for the record.
Jasmine Vargas, Air Quality and Clean Ports Campaign Director, Environmental Health Coalition, and I'm very thrilled to see these resources being made available by the Port Smith, and I urge you today to support the allocation and to support the memorandum of understanding that the APCD has with the port. We also have, as you saw, a lot of the different SERP goals and objectives will be met with these resources as well. We will see that the air purifier goals of 1,000 will be hit, which is great, something that we weren't able to do with PAIR 1.0. This will go to the impacted communities of the port side that EHC and our members and community are actively living and working and playing in. So I really appreciate that, and I'd like to see that move forward. I also want to highlight that we do see that there is extensive still need for air purifiers in schools and in around schools that are in the West National City area and around the port community. So I have had conversations in the past with Mike about being able to work together to identify the schools that are most need and make those connections with the community and the teachers to be able to come up with a list of schools that can really take advantage of this and try and facilitate that conversation. I also wanted to highlight how incredibly important and popular the electric shuttle program is. It's something I hear about at least every time that I meet with our members, and they use it constantly, whether it's to get to their job or to shop or to go to Pepper Park. They're using this shuttle very regularly, and I think I need to take the opportunity here to say there's an opportunity to expand that program, whether it's getting more resources or working with National City to create broader boundaries. I think that would be greatly appreciated and welcomed by the community of National City. Finally, I think, I didn't want to not mention the 25,000 for the IDA program. EHC has been and will continue to try and find more and more resources for more air purifiers in the impacted communities along the Tijuana River, and any way we can support in making sure those resources and moving forward. Finally, I want to say, I know that PAIR 2.0 or the idea of expanding that program is not necessarily funded at the moment, but I'd like to talk about how the previous PAIR program participants might be someone we can check back in with to see if they need more air purifiers, maybe new air purifiers that have broken down, or maybe even air filters that we might be able to meet that need. That's all for me today. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Watt. And I just want to express my gratitude to the board for their support in funding all of these different items that are so will be put to good use and are very much needed. I appreciate our team's support for all of these programs that have really made a difference in people's lives. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the comment that Yasmin made about the working together to identify highly impacted schools in West National City. I highly encourage that. I think nothing better than those that are at the front line of what's happening in these environmental justice communities. And then just lastly, regarding the IDA program filters, since we're talking about, adding 125, it had me thinking that I think I would welcome the opportunity to get regular updates. I know my staff is very much in contact with you guys constantly, but for the public to hear how those programs are going, even if some have been paused, I love the suggestion about it doing a light touch and seeing where they are and exploring other sources of funding that we could have opportunities to tap into. Ms. Corbett, do you have a comment?
Going to provide an update on the IDA program in my APCO report. But I know we're getting close, so we can always put it out by mail.
I just had a quick question, related to the comment by Ms. Vargas. Do we know if some of the PAIR program air purifiers or air filters are still under warranty? So if there are people that have, received, air purifier, is there any way we can check that? I don't know how long the warranties are for.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that. Those were procured under a different agreement than the one that we've used for the IRA program. So we'd have to go back and see what was in our agreement with that provider and what time frame that warranty covered. But we'll look at that and see what that works. We worked with ENC was a partner in the distribution of that, and so we have information on who those went to and what when they were issued and things of that nature.
Perfect. Yeah, just because some of them are broken and it's under warranty.
Yeah,
we would want to make sure that we can get them fixed.
Right. Typically, it's like a 2-year warranty period,
Okay.
so we may be right around that time frame for some of them, but I'll double check that.
Perfect. Madam Chair, and I failed to make motion to approve. Okay. We've got a first and second. Any other comments, questions? No, can we call the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairperson Garcia. Member Good?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre?
Yes.
Chairperson Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. With members Gloria, Lawson, Reamer, and Cobal absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Okay, I know that there are 2 more agenda items. However, we have some members that need to go on to other meetings, so we are about to lose quorum. I'd like to, I don't know if I need a motion for this. I'd like to make a motion to continue items D3 and D4 to a future governing board meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. Member Bush?
Yeah.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan is absent. Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Vice Chair Aguirre?
Yes.
Chairperson Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes with members Gloria, Lawson, Reamer, and Cobal absent.
Thank you, everyone. This adjourns our meeting today. We will see each other in 2 months. Thank you.